Welcome to Ask Divorce Coach. We're going to be following up from last week's question. And then today we're going to be talking about, should you be platonic friends with someone that you dated? Stay tuned. It's an amazing day. Andrea M. Stuckey here, the divorce liberator and your favorite divorce coach, coming to you again for the Ask Divorce Coach segment. Ask Divorce Coach. So today we're going to be following up on the last email, and then we're going to briefly talk about a second email. So listen, make sure you subscribe to my channel here. Make sure you thumbs up and comment. Let me know what you think of this segment, and also be sure to send in your question or scenario around divorce or your situation to askdivorcecoach@gmail.com. askdivorcecoach@gmail.com. If you need more information, just check all the previous videos to get all my credentials and all that good stuff. So let's jump in to today's question. So this is part 2. Last week, we had someone write in about continuing to live with their husband while they were filing for divorce. And so I kind of elaborated a little bit on the information that was given. However, I didn't have a lot of details. I didn't have how long they were married and some specifics that I needed. And so the individual did decide to send a part 2, if you will. So I'd like to read that email, and then I'd like to give my commentary for that, and then we can move on to the second question. Okay, so let me pull that information up. So this is part 2, and if you missed segment 1, make sure you go back. It says, I filed for divorce and I'm still living with my spouse. Okay, so here's part 2. Hi, here is some additional information regarding my question. Thanks for the answer you already gave. Married 19 years. Husband is 72 and still working. Children, twins, will be 18 in July. I'm retired, living off of Social Security. We own our own home. It was my home I purchased before marriage. Tried to get senior housing, but they needed a letter from my husband saying that I was leaving and the children are staying with him. I'm sure he won't write the letter. I get Social Security for the boys, which stops in July when they turn 18. I understand that I can get a divorce even if my husband contests. It's just as long as, contests it just as long as I have been out of the house for a year. I need to find out what documents I need to prove that I am out of the house, like rent receipts, etc. Thanks. So that does give me a little more information to last week's question based on this person's scenario. So there's a couple of things I really want to say and point out here is that obviously she's been married for quite a while. And if you watch the last video, I talked about possible spousal support. And usually, generally, if you've been married over 10 years, you sort of have some, stake in the game, if you will, in terms of your marriage. Now, before I go any further, let me be clear. I am not an attorney. I am not giving legal advice. I am a certified life coach that works with separated and divorced women. And I personally have been divorced twice and am currently at taping of this video about a little over 10 years out of my second marriage. So I've kind of gone through this process. I have a coaching practice, and so the first thing is, of course, as I said last time, the laws vary from state to state. She did state here that she needs to be out of the dwelling of her husband for a year, which is similar to the state that I live in. And so it seems as if, she's challenged with how to move on from a financial perspective. So this is what I would say, right? There are some things here that are still legal advice that you need from an attorney. You said you have contacted an attorney. You may need to secure that attorney for all of the specifics. But the reality is, in order to move forward with your divorce, and you never said why you guys are divorcing or you didn't allude to any of that information. That could be kind of relevant too in terms of the outcome of the divorce and whether there are, assets and things of that nature involved. But clearly, very shortly, the children will not be involved because they will be adults. Because you're living off of Social Security, depending on what that income looks like for you, you have to begin to plan. If you know that you're leaving this man, you're going to have to make some plans based on the current income that you have, and if that's enough income to sustain you. You didn't say your age, but you did say that your husband seems to be older, 72, and you have 18-year-old boys. So I'm not sure if there's a huge age gap between you and your current husband. So I'm not sure also if you are physically able to work. These are some things that really, that really makes sense, and that can help me sort of evaluate and help guide you. But I will say this, obviously, if the current income that you have from Social Security will not meet your needs, and if you are physically able, you may need to start seeking additional income, whether it's a home-based business, right? Whether it is, securing a job. You have to look at what those numbers will look like, but you have to begin to plan. You also said that, your husband won't give you specific information for the housing that you're looking into, but have you asked? Right? Sometimes even prayer will change things. I don't really know the dynamics of your relationship. I don't know if it's been abusive. I don't know if it's been controlling. All those things matter. And you don't know, if you have not because you ask not. So I would ask, right? And I'm not even sure you haven't stated if your husband is in agreement with the divorce, or if does he even know that you have sought out an attorney for divorce. So those are some other relevant information, but I hope that this is helpful. But all the legal advice you need to take to your attorney to prove that you are out of the house for a year. For me, basically, I was able to show I had been living, I had actually literally moved, and he had moved out of the house before we, as I said in the last video, my girls and I literally moved from our home to a new home. Right, so we were able to validate that. And I don't really remember anyone asking me for receipts. But again, those are things you need to ask an attorney in your particular state, what will be needed in order for you to file for divorce. So I hope that's helpful. If you want more, it's probably going to be a coaching session, and you can definitely schedule a consultation at bit.ly/divorce coach and the number 7. bit.ly/divorce coach and the number 7. And again, I'm not an attorney, but I can definitely help you with strategic planning. That is definitely one of my areas of expertise when we talk about divorce. Okay? So hopefully that's helpful. So you guys, let's move on to question for this week, a new question that I believe is really common for a lot of women, especially middle-aged women and men who are new to the dating scene. Right? Because if you're 40 or over, 45 or over, when we were out there dating, when we probably met our ex-spouse, things were very, very different. And so in today's society, with online dating, with a lot of relationship information available, and also because we're at a different season in our life, we're not in our 20s, we're not in our 30s, right? And if we're over 40, then this is something you may want to think about when you're thinking about dating and what your goals are in dating. So let me just go ahead and read. I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. So here's the question. Ask Divorce Coach, should you be platonic friends with a man who, after 1 year of dating, isn't ready to start a serious relationship? So when I read this, I actually thought about it, thought about my own experience, thought about things that I have studied in terms of relationships, and and having colleagues who are relationship coaches, and then also what I've seen in my own personal life, as I said, and my clients who have dated after divorce. So I wanted to write some notes. And so these are some things that I want to share with those of you who are watching, and also the person who wrote in the question to Ask Divorce Coach. So listen, the first question is, after a year of dating, especially it being bona fide adults, right? If you've been dating for 1 year, that is a lot of time to spend with someone, to talk to someone, to really get to know someone, right? And you have to ask yourself, during the course and nature of that relationship or friendship or dating, however you titled that relationship, what was your personal goal for the relationship? Some people are in relationships totally for companionship. Some people are looking to remarry. Some people are looking for exclusivity and possibly moving in together. There are people who do not desire to get married again, and this is a no judgment zone, so your life is your life, right? But if you know that you are seeking more, if you know that you desire more in a relationship, i.e. marriage or exclusivity and commitment in a relationship, then you have to ask yourself, how can being platonic friends benefit you? Because the reality is, most women, we get emotionally attached. Right? Not saying that men don't get emotionally attached, but it's clear here that for whatever reason, this gentleman is not interested in being exclusive or being in a committed relationship, right? You had a year together. That's what I wrote down. You had a year together. And so if your goal is to be married, it's clear that the feeling is not mutual, right? And so this is something, listen, I had to learn this in dating too. Right? Now, everyone is not for everyone. And a lot of times for us, especially as women, we have to recognize that we just may not be the person for that individual. The same way when we're dating and we realize that that's not the person for us. But sometimes our ego gets in the way, right? And listen, we have to understand that it takes nothing away from who we are, our value. We're just not the person for that individual. And we have to look at it from the flip side when we've dated people, and maybe it didn't go a year, but we may have recognized that there's an individual that we were not interested in. It's really the same thing, but we're only looking at through it from one lens, right? And so at the end of the day, you have to, determine, if you continue that platonic friendship, what does a platonic friendship look like? How often are you talking? Is there really going to be a change in the dynamic of the relationship? What we call these today, I never heard of this before when I was young and, before I ever got married, but there are a lot of situationships. And basically those are relationships that are, not really going in any direction. You are just there. They are just there, and it's for friendship with benefits, but there is really no long-term commitment. And you have to determine for yourself if that's what you want, right? Do you want to be one of many, or do you want to be the only one, right? And so you have to look at it from that lens. And if you continue to stay in a platonic friendship, right? And I'm not saying that you can't be friends down the road, but I would recommend that at that juncture, when you guys decide to depart, if you decide to depart, that you do not communicate, because you I'm sure, have some level of attachment to that individual, right? Because you desire more and that person does not desire more for whatever reason. Right? And so you can be taking your time and energy and having fun, meeting new people, and possibly meeting the man of your dreams, who will give you the attention, the time, and the desires of your heart, if you will. Right? So that's my recommendation. I wouldn't recommend, especially after a year. 3 months is one thing. 6 months, usually if you're mature and you're really spending quality time with an individual at this juncture in life, you really know if this person has the qualities to be a husband or a wife, if that's your goal, or at least to be exclusive with that individual, right? I also know that there can also be outside situations with children, like for me, I still have a daughter, right? She has another year of college. Another year of high school, right? And so, I think about that when I'm dating and into any long-term plans, and that's another story and that's another video, right? So about you, yes, you need to determine that. And so I wrote a couple of highlights here that I want to share. Good doesn't mean right. Good doesn't mean right. And a lot of times we meet good men, we meet good women, but it doesn't mean that they're right for us. And the same thing on the flip side, right? Just because we consider ourselves a good woman or a good man does not mean that we are the right individual for the other individual. And it's nothing personal. And so we have to begin to put our big girl and big guy panties on and recognize that dating today is very different. Men and women have access to a lot of individuals. And so at the end of the day, they have to know, and you have to know, that you want to be in a relationship with that individual. And the reality is, ma'am, you deserve it. You deserve quality, you deserve time, you deserve attention. And if your goal is to remarry one day, then that is the road that you should seek when you're out here dating, right? And pay close attention as you're dating. Ask those questions up front, because a lot of times men will tell you up front, but a lot of times, because of women being women, and I'm a woman, right? We don't want to hear that. Right? We feel we can change them, or, when they have our love and our attention and we're doing everything for them, which we shouldn't be. That's another video. That they're going to change. And that's not necessarily the case. Right? That is not necessarily the case. And then lastly, to answer your question, no. I don't think you should be platonic friends initially with someone who has decided after a year not to be exclusive. Personally, I would just say, okay, that's great. Perhaps we can, chat down the road, and, I look forward to talking to you at some other time. And I would leave it at that. Yes, it may hurt, but you have to heal your heart. You have to be honest and open with yourself about the emotional attachment, or lack thereof, but emotional attachment that you have created with this individual. And you want to start to separate yourself so that you can give your time and energy to the people who deserve it. So thank you so much for joining, you guys. Make sure that you write in your question or situation. I'd love to, dialogue about it here. Listen, as you're watching this video, I'd love to hear your own personal commentary below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you thumbs up and heart it up, and share this broadcast. Again, I'm Andrea M. Stuckey, the Divorce Liberator and your favorite divorce coach. Thank you so much for joining me for Ask Divorce Coach. Have a wonderful day.